Hi, welcome everybody to Pressure Free Business. I'm so excited to bring you a series of speakers today. If you're watching this on the recording, we're so glad that you're taking a look at this. Every one of these speakers has some great nuggets to give you, and they also have some free gifts and links for you too. So make sure to check those out. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elle Ingalls. I'm the creator of the Pressure Free Method. I help people basically reduce stress, anger, and anxiety quickly and effectively so they can improve their performance, improve how they show up in their lives, and how they actually get to feel in their day. And I'm so happy to have our first guest here today. She is not just a colleague, she's been my accountability partner. It will be 5 years in July, which means that we speak pretty much every weekday morning in the beginning of the day to support each other, help each other grow each other's businesses. We've done many events together before, and I love to have her on my conferences because what she teaches is important, and what she teaches can help you in so many subtle little ways really show up differently in the world so that you can be more productive, you can be more profitable, and you can be more present. And that's probably the piece she will hone in on the most today. So Leila, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Elle Ingalls. This is awesome. I love when you bring together amazing speakers from all around the world. It's really cool.
Yeah, and they are from around the world today, Israel, Croatia, and all across the US.
International Business Conference. So cool. All right, so I'm so grateful to be here. My name is Leila Veronica, and I am a speaker and a body coach and the CEO of the Riverstone Movement School. My intention is to really help high-level, high-achieving, high-performing individuals feel good in their body, stay healthier longer so that they can serve the world and make more impact globally like Elle Ingalls is today. So I'm going to do a little presentation. My intention today is really to help you embody the value that you offer. You're going to learn a lot about business today. And what I want you to do is be prepared in your physical form, your whole body, not just the thinking head part. You're going to have thinking head stuff today, but let's get you in your body too so you can receive more, stay calm, and actually all of these speakers that you hear today, you'll be able to gain more from what they say by taking this in. I'm going to open up a presentation. Would it be okay if I share my screen, Elle?
Yes, let me make you co-host.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let's see here. Participants. Leila. Co-host. You are good to go.
Thank you, darling. All right. How to embody the value you offer. I'm just going to assume that you have something valuable today. You're here because you value yourself enough to learn more, to connect more, and to take that stuff, that information, and then bring it forward in the world. You're not just going to learn today and throw it in the trash. You're going to take something today, take it out into the world, and get results. So that's what this is about. How do you embody what you're bringing forward in the world? And I'm going to teach you a super simple process today of how to do that. This is a quote from Tony Robbins, the infamous, big gentleman who's helped so many people from all around the world. He over and over and over and over and over. If you go to any of his events, listen to his videos, recordings, courses, anything, he always says this. It starts with your physiology. And what is your physiology? It's the way you use your body, your physical state. Now, most of us grew up valuing the mind. Way to go. High five. Woo! And somewhere along the way, forgot about the body. What? Well, it's time to remember that the mind is the body. It's the whole being. The mind isn't thinking. The mind is the whole beingness. So I'm going to teach you today how to bring your body, the physiology, your physical state into a place so you don't have to work so hard. You basically show up and people want more of what you have because you're being it. You know, we want to be the change we want to see in the world, but most people don't know how. And I'm so passionate about teaching this. So as Elle said, I'm her friend, her colleague, her accountability partner, almost 5 years, 5 days a week. And we have done lots of work together. I'm actually in the middle of Elle Engel's pressure-free certification program. I've been implementing this methodology to really elevate myself and have a high-performing life, really, all the way around without stressing out or burning out. I learned in 2017 from her. It took me 6 months to have my first day without stress hormones. And ever since, I've been able to string days along and have even weeks and months go by without stress, triggering in my body. And Elle learned from me my movement system. And I want to just show this. And she said, before working with Leila, my posture was a distraction from my mission. Many of you may know, and if you don't, Elle is a lifelong amazing musician, violin. So her posture was affected by years of violin. And she had worked for years to try to get better posture and couldn't quite find anything that worked. I gave her a system that's super simple that works. And then she said she helped me create a body that's meant to do more. Remember what Tony Robbins said? It is our physiology that gets us to do more. It's not the thinking, it's not the strategy, it's not the figuring out the how. It's your form. And then that dictates your function. So this is why I'm so happy. We, like Elle said, we've done lots and lots of events together. I'm actually coming out to Michigan this month to come to a retreat as an attendee and as a guest speaker. And we've done, helped a lot of clients together. She's helped them, I've helped them, we've helped them together. So we're very much in alignment in terms of, we know that you can feel good and have a lot of success at the same time. You don't have to be successful and worn out, and you don't have to feel good and have low success. You can have high success, high health, beautiful relationships. And what Elle says that I love the most is, you deserve a beautiful life. And so I offer everybody to just take a breath and exhale and remember you were born and you deserve a beautiful life. And I have a feeling that's what you sell. On some level, a beautiful life for somebody. You help them with that. Some level. And so let's talk about how you can have a beautiful life and help others have a beautiful life, and whatever that means for you and your business, by simply changing your physiology, your physical state, your body. So what does it mean to really embody something? Well, you express in your physical form, right, your body, some sort of idea, some sort of qualities, or some sort of feeling, which we'll get into a little bit more, and I'll get you there in a little bit to feel it yourself. But ask yourself this, like, I'm going to read some ideas off, but what do you want to embody, really? What character traits? She embodies wisdom, trust, great energy, sweetness, power, right? A lot of people tell me power. Oh, you're so powerful, Leila. I'm like, I don't know. I just wake up and go to bed and have to do some things in between, right? But it's true. They feel my power because I'm nurturing that daily. And so whatever it is that you want to embody, what is it that you sell? I hope to sell peaceful power. I don't want power that drives people over, runs people over, peaceful power. So my intention is to embody that all day, every day, even when I'm not working. Right? When I'm by myself, peaceful power. So what is it that you want to, some idea, some quality, some feeling that you are bringing forward in your business in particular that you really want to feel? So what idea, what quality, what feeling? And if you want to add it in the chat, I'm sure everybody would love to hear, no pressure, of course. But if you want to put it in the chat, like we would love to hear and just learn more about what it is exactly you want to bring forward in embodiment. Elle says strength and compassion. Love. Beautiful. Heart and like power. I just love that. That's so good. Strength and compassion. I would offer, knowing Elle a long time, she does that. She has strong strength and compassion. Probably the most loving person I've met along the way. Yeah. Let's say that about Elle. That's pretty deep compassion. I can't think of anybody else right now. So I'm going to give you a big high five on that strong compassion. Anybody else want to share? We're here for you. We're high-fiving you, even if you're just sharing it in your mind. What are some benefits before we get into the practice of like, what does it actually mean to, to do this? Is we need to see why we're doing it. Like, what are we even doing this for in business? Why are we going to do this body stuff, Leila? Like, I got a strategy, it's not working, but why do I need to do this body stuff? I don't get it, right? Well, number one, when you do this, just trust for this like 30 seconds, trust me here. When you do this, you will be seen as the go-to person. When you're owning it, when you're in that energy, that value, you're being it, you are the person to go to. It's not the person who's talking about it or thinking about it or got the right strategy. It's the person who is being it, the person who's walking the talk, living that which they are always expressing. That's why we love Elle Ingalls. We know she lives pressure free, right? She tells stories all the time about her own journey and constantly practicing it, right? We know she's the one to teach us how to not be in stress hormones. Why? She's always practicing it, and she has kids and a family and clients and all this stuff. So you want to be it, and then people will come to you with ease. Simple. Number two, attract opportunities instead of chasing them. People will come to you instead of you going to them. I've been a speaker for a number of years. I've never had to go after speaking gigs. People come to me. Why? I make connections. They see me as somebody who can add value and they want me. It's simple. And I don't have to go after stuff or actually even talk anybody into anything. It's just they can feel something inside of me. And that's what you want. You don't want to have to chase stuff. It's draining, exhausting, frustrating, and you're really going to just waste a lot of energy and time. So the third part is you can charge more. When you are embodying, when you're owning it fully, that is when you can elevate yourself in the market. Charge more, work with higher-end clients, sell bigger things. If you embody the value, not talk about it, not think about it, not just imagine it even, but really being it. Also, one of my favorite things is that you actually impact people more. The results that your clients will get and your customers will receive is so much more when you are being it. So everything's energy. And I've had a lot of clients say to me, I like bridge timelines for them, or I'm like a tuning fork. And what they're really saying is that I'm some sort of energy, some sort of vibration, some sort of feeling state, right? And when they're around me, they start to get into that feeling state. They always feel more powerful after we talk, after we connect, after they work with me, right? Why? That's it, because I'm in that energy. I'm being it. It's nothing I say, because other people could say the same thing and it wouldn't work. It's the beingness that makes the work more impactful and get bigger results. So if we were trying to learn stress-free, lifestyle from somebody who's stressed out, it wouldn't work, right? Super simple example. So you have to be that which you sell so that the people get the results that you sell, okay? I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. The last one is you feel in alignment with your highest self, your soul, your spirit, your whatever you want to call it. You know that feeling of when you're not in alignment, when you're like, I'm selling this, but I don't really believe in it all the way. I'm not sure, or I'm doing this thing and it doesn't feel right. That's the energy that pushes people away, actually makes you unhealthy, and will also lower your confidence. So you want to really practice this before you go in the marketplace, before you go working with clients, before you're doing a bunch of strategies. Get into this embodiment piece first. So you're in alignment and you move from that place. Okay. All right. Let's do this. I know I've talked quite a bit about this and why it's so important. It's particularly important for high achievers, intellectual types, people who think a lot. If you trust me, and if you are able to in this moment, go ahead and close your eyes and just take a few breaths in your nose and a little sigh out of your mouth, like a ha. Relaxing your belly, breathing in, breathing out, letting yourself feel your body and your breath connected just for a moment. Feel your entire body, your feet, your legs, your arms, your hands, your belly, your chest, your back, your neck, your skull, and even your hair. Take a moment and imagine your client, your customer, the person you sell to now. Imagine this person receiving your support, buying from you, working with you. And feel how well you perform your craft, what you do. Feel your client, your customer. Feel them feeling the results of the work of the product, service that you've sold to them. Feel the future feelings of your client now. Notice how you feel. This is the feeling of value that you have to offer. This is the feeling state you want to move from in your business. The future feelings of your client or customer after they work with you. And if you're ready, you can blink your eyes open if they're closed and take a few notes. Remember this. What did you notice? What did you particularly notice in your body? What did your body feel like in the future if you were your client? Okay, that is your job. That is your number one job, is to be in that feeling state. If you're not there, get there. Do the same practice and then move into your strategy business stuff from there. If you're not in that feeling state, don't expect people to buy from you. Don't expect your marketing work. Don't expect to get opportunities coming to you. If nothing's coming to you the way you want, this is why. I put money on it. So I want to see, I felt myself lean forward a bit, engaging. I said, I love that. So maybe play with that in your posture as you work on something you're doing next. Lean forward a little bit and open up the chest maybe a little bit more and throw that front body maybe just a little bit softer and opener, more open, and see how it feels and see what happens, right? It's a subtle energy. It's a subtle shift, but I could see how you lean forward, more engaging, more things that come to you, right? So if you want to learn more, a couple things. If you're ready now, you're like, I need your help, Leila. Just go to speakwithleila.com. Tell me what you got going on. We'll talk directly. And then if you want to learn more about the body piece, you're like, well, you taught me a little bit, but I want to learn more. I have a whole system set up for you that will help you get into your body in a way that you can move forward towards abundance, right? That's the whole intention here, is link your body to your business. So bodywithleila.com, check it out. And I'm really grateful, Elle, for you to have me here today, and for everybody here who is learning more about business and having a beautiful life. Thanks for taking care of yourself. We all need you to.
Leila, thank you so much. I want to reiterate some of the things that I have learned from you. And it wasn't just my posture. It was how I sat, how I walked, how I stood, how I just went about life. And one of the key things for me, I work with a lot of people, and it seems like everybody has a little pain somewhere, whether it's lower back pain. I had a lot of pain in different places, but there was one place, which was my foot. And this was a foot I had injured several times. The last time I had seriously injured it, my mom was dying of cancer. And we had arrived in New Hampshire to be with her really for the last time, with my kids, with my husband. And my dad asked me to go out to her garden to cut some flowers and bring them over to the summer house. There were two houses like 6 miles apart. And he's like, why don't you cut some flowers? So I grabbed the scissors, I headed out the door, and my sandal caught on the bricks and I fell. Number one, thank goodness my mother taught me how to carry scissors, or I might not be with you here today, because it was a tumultuous fall and those scissors could have literally gone inside me. So that did not happen, thank God. But the foot that got caught, it practically was broken. It was a really severe sprain. It blew up. My sisters thought I was just trying to get out of doing work around the camp, right? Because I literally could hardly walk. So I was putting my foot up and icing it and just lying on my bed, my mother's bed with her. This is what I did. Working with Leila and what she taught me about my feet, I am telling you, if that's the only thing you ever did with her, it is life-changing. I have rehabbed that foot completely thanks to her. And every once in a while, if I get a little twinge, I go right into what she's taught me. And it's just the greatest blessing, because one of my favorite things to do is walk. I walk every morning in nature. I'm a nature bather. Like I would go naked nature bathing if I could in this place.
I would attest to that. I would attest she loves the nature. I get to hear the sweet chirps of the birds in the morning sometimes when we talk.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
And if I couldn't do that walk every day, that would just, and there were times when my foot hurt so badly I couldn't, until I worked with Leila. So she opened up my posture. Like she said, I've been a violinist since I was 8 years old, like 51 years, almost 60 years, or 52 years. And my back, I had scoliosis. I have overdeveloped this way, all these things. And I'm telling you, it was just incredible that you were brought into my life, and vice versa. I mean, we've done so much for each other and for each other's clients. Then I remember too, one of the things that you've done is you've sent some of your clients to me, because stress is one of the things that takes people out of their game and doesn't even allow them to experience the business they want, to experience, if they're in a corporate job, getting promoted. Stress is a thing that holds us back. And so there's been times when you've sent people to me, it's like, go to Elle first and then come to me, and then we can soar. So it's really fun. I love collaborating with other coaches, with other people to help in those ways. And it's been really a powerful friendship.
I'd love to speak to that, if that'd be okay, because I just
Sure.
want to give a call in. Anybody who is teaching anything business and it's not working for your people, send them to Elle. Honest, like when you get out of the stress, the strategy works. Write that down. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's so good. When you get out of the stress, the strategy works. So any business coach or anybody who's helping anybody marketing or anything, and it's not working and you're not sure why, this is what it is. Like, that's what I've learned. It's like, oh, my people, if I can teach them business strategy, it'll work only if they don't have stress, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want to say a big shout out to Collaboration nation over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that when I tell people that you and I have been accountability partners for 5 years, and I have another person who is my weekly accountability partner for over 5 years, 5.5 years, people are like, how do you do that? And I just want to bring forward consistency for you today. How can you be consistent? My son Hugh is going to come on later in the day, and he is a master of consistency. He helps me stay consistent in things I want to do. But consistency is a mark of someone who has gotten to a level of maturity and growth in their business that they can keep going and that they can continue to do what it takes. And it takes a lot of discipline to do that. The other thing that's great about having an accountability person in your life, someone that you do talk to either weekly or weekdays, like she and I do, is that when you do that, when you make that commitment and you see each other through time, you get to witness each other's growth. And I think that is really super powerful. That's been a blessing that you and I have been able to do.
It's really fun. I'm your biggest cheerleader, El Ingles. I love you.
Your biggest cheerleader too. And both of us were cheerleaders in high school, which is pretty funny. But everyone needs a cheerleader. In fact, I had a client say to me, he downloaded one of my little videos. It was on confidence. And he said, I watch it every morning. And then he actually got tears in his eyes. This is a 20-year-old college student. And he said, I just need to know that somebody's in my court. We all need to know that there's at least one person in the universe that's not judging us, that provides unconditional support and love, and is there for you. And that is a part of my modus operandi. It's like, that's what I truly believe. My kids know that. My husband knows that. When he met me, he said, you're the first person that just seems to give unconditional love. Like, you're not putting conditions on how I need to be or act or any of that. And I think there's too little of that in the world. So when you can embody, like Leila is teaching, you start to love your body, even if it's not quite the shape you want. You start to really love it. And I think that's another secret piece that you bring to all of your coaching, whether you're coaching someone to elevate their speaking, their business, the body has to come first. So thank you so much, Leila. We're going to move to our next speaker. Say hi to
Thank you.
Hi, Speedy. And we have our next speaker here. I'm so excited to invite her in. And so our next speaker today is Davida Ginter. And Davida, I'm so happy to have you here all the way from Israel.
Delighted to join you.
Yes. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then you basically have this time to share. And do you have slides? Do you need me to make you co-host?
No.
Good.
Yes, and the one behind me.
Beautiful. I love it. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'd love to actually start and introduce myself as I go.
Perfect.
And I'm going to ask you and all of you, I'm going to ask you to trust me and close your eyes for a very, very short moment. And imagine that you are diving in the open sea, and you are now 10, 12, 15 meters under the sea level. And the ocean is just breathtaking. Literally, you use almost every bit of your oxygen to absorb the unique sights that are revealed under the sea. And just as you're about to swim your way up, one of your fellow divers is approaching you, and they are asking for your air. And you can see they're in trouble, but you need your air as well. I mean, with a limited amount of oxygen, how are you able to assist another person? And there's a reason why we are always being guided to secure our safety when we need to assist others, like on an airplane, when we are, being instructed to put your oxygen mask first before assisting any of the other passengers. So we all know this very well rationally, yet we sometimes find ourselves depleted of energy and depleted of inner strength and other personal resources. And that situation disables us from living and working the way we aspire to, not alone, assist others. So we can refer to it as an exhaustion or continuous lack of motivation. Research calls it burnout. Yeah, you can open your eyes now. And I've been working with this mission of burnout prevention and cultivation of well-being in the last 6-7 years or so. And it started almost coincidentally. I was on a Skype call with a friend and colleague of mine, Kyla, and we were talking about our work in the change-making sphere and working with managers and leaders of different kinds. And we have noticed that so many of our colleagues and also the people whom we've worked with are suffering from continuous stress, and then they get burnt out. And we thought, this is so ironic. People who care so much about other people, about their organizations, about their communities, forget to maintain self-care. People who advocate sustainability neglect that bit of personal sustainability. And we concluded with, oh, we don't need to suffer in order to reduce world suffering. And I thought that's a great title for an article. I'll go and write an article about burnout. But the more I explore into this topic, the more I realized how huge it is, and stories kept pouring at me from everywhere. And so this article became a book, and then it became a global team, the Drive initiative towards burnout prevention. And then it became an organization in Kindle Global and so on. So this is me. And this is my teams and my mission. And we also develop a lot of the learning and development processes with organizations. But that's a story that I'll delay in a couple of minutes. And I first want to debunk the myth that burnout and stress are the same, because they're really not. And interestingly enough, stress by itself is really not a negative thing. Stress could be positive. It could drive us forward to pursue a goal, you know, it creates adrenaline. And the problem starts under two conditions. One is when we perceive the situation as stressful and we tell ourselves that we can't cope well, or we are lacking the tools to manage stress. And the second one is when stress becomes continuous, on a regular basis, chronic even, day after day, and for some people, hour after hour. And that is exactly the definition of burnout as coined by the World Health Organization just 3 years ago. Chronic work-related stress that has not been successfully managed. This is exactly burnout. And so we understand that stress is not the enemy, stress is not the problem. We need to learn how to cope with that, and we need to learn how to not make stress something that is regularly embedded in our routines, which gives us a hint about what we should do. Redesign our routines, rethink what is that we want to, how do we want to carry our lives, our life and work routines. And the second realization I actually had when we were working with this mission is what I started talking about before. So my team and I were meeting individuals within workshops and seminars. And then people came to us afterwards and they told us, well, this is all nice and everything. I get the tools, I get everything I need. But tomorrow morning, I'm going back to my work. I'm going back to the very same system that contributed to my burnout. And that was a big aha moment for us. And we decided to slightly change our mission, and we decided to tap into the system level and start working with organizations, with business leaders, to help them, to support them with making a culture shift towards well-being. And the thing about well-being, you know, it's an aspiration, but it could also be very vague. And we wanted to make it as practical as possible, right? We wanted to give people something they can actually practice. And we start referring to it as strategic well-being. Now, many times when people hear strategy, they think business, you know, and operations. But strategy is every plan that we see, you know, we have the vision, we have the current situation, we want to bridge the gap between the two. That's the plan, that's the strategy. And so strategic well-being is both for our organizations and business and operation, but also for ourselves personally, for our families, for our circles. We can apply to every setting in our lives, right? Strategic well-being is about planning and take ownership on our well-being, basically. So it's taking the theory into practice. And also, I like to look at it as a holistic approach to well-being, because I've interviewed many people for my book, and I've met so many people who generously shared with me their stories. And people have shared that, we slept good and we ate good and we took care of our physical body. But when we went to work and we felt underappreciated, or no one, listens to us, then what's the point? Or vice versa, we could feel very much fulfilled with our work and our mission. But if our energy is depleted, if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't sustain that for too long. So the holistic approach to well-being is to perceive it with all aspects included: physical well-being, emotional well-being, mental well-being. Those two are not the same. Social well-being, and so on. You can look at it also as spiritual well-being, about our fulfillment. It's basically endless, and it relates to every aspect of our lives. So this is how we treat it. And one really on-point example that I could share here is one of the interviews for the book. It's in the book if you want to read the full story. She shared with me, she's a life and work coach, life and business coach. And she shared with me, I started to become so successful, so I wanted to fit in as much clients as possible. And before I realized that, I was fully booked from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's her story, right? So she found herself fully booked. And she said, and I didn't even realize I'm having a problem there until I got sick. And even then, I kind of ignored it until I had to go to the doctor, and he recommended I get hospitalized. He said, you can't continue this way. I said, you are absolutely right. And I still was doing more of the same. And I only realized I really had a problem when on one of the days, in the last session for the day, 8 p.m., that client walks into the room. And I know this person for 4 months now. I know everything about her life, the names of her children, her business, everything. And for the entire session, I can't remember this woman's name. That's when I understood, I really need to stop, and I need to reprioritize, her word, reprioritize her life, her choices, her work and life routine. And it's so interesting. As I said, I met so many people who shared with me their stories, and there are different people, different stories. But there are so many common threads there, and reprioritizing, taking ownership of our routines is one of them. And also, it's really interesting and important to us to understand that when we grow, and growth is something, amazing and important, but also it brings along many, many challenges. And so we tap into a new aspect of well-being. How do we grow well? It's not only being stuck. When we grow, how do we do it well and maintain our well-being? And last week, it's a story, this talk was written before, but my friend called me and I wanted to share this with you as well. So last week, I'm getting this text message from an old friend of mine from school. Hey, Davida, I'm struggling here. I need your support. Can we talk? And I said, of course, right? So we get on this call. It's late evening for me in Israel, early morning for my friend in Canada. And he shares with me, he's such an amazing person. He founded this NGO a few years ago, 4 years ago, working with homeless people in Canada. And he said, the business is going amazing. I feel so fulfilled and engaged. But recently I'm struggling. The team has grown and I don't know what to do with it. And I keep having these difficult conversations. I'm struggling to navigate through everything. And on top of that, I'm only 30-something years old and I had my first heart incident and I'm scared, his words. What would you recommend me? And we kept talking. We had this wonderful, very vulnerable, tender conversation. And he came up with a solution, his wisdom, not mine, really. I just, held the space for him. And his conclusions were, I'll share those with you because I think it's so important. To pause the self-judgment, to allow himself time to wind down, right? This is okay. to reach out, to actively reach out for support, not to hide and feel that this is weakness, to share his struggles, just as he did with me. And to give, to employ self-empathy. We're so good at giving empathy to others. What about giving empathy to ourselves? And I loved his insights, and I wanted to bring them forward also. And everything he shared, basically, the way I see it, goes under the definition of resilience. Now, the definition of resilience is basically the ability to bounce back after facing setbacks and hurdles. But I see it as a much deeper and continuous practice. Remember, we talked about prevent something from happening in a continuous way. So resilience could be roughly divided into two: tapping into our internal resources and then, or simultaneously, the external resources. And the interesting part is that we need to do it over time. Resilience is not just, oh, we are facing this obstacle now what do we do? It's also, how do we build it over time to approach this more prepared, even mentally prepared. So inner resilience is about practicing our self-talk. And as I said before, pause the guilt and the self-judgment, and basically work a lot about our mindset. How do we approach challenges? There's a beautiful story, by the way, about Michael Phelps, the Olympic medalist, that he trained so much, for example, to swim in the dark, that in that one time in the Olympic Games in Beijing, when he had water come into his glasses and he basically swam blind, he went out of the water and the reporter asked him, how was it to swim blind? He said, just as I imagined it, because he was prepared for that, mentally and physically prepared to this obstacle. So that preparation is part of building this resilience internally over time. But there's also, as we said, external support there. And this is about building our support systems. And not only when we need it, building this, cultivate those relationships so we have those support systems once we need them. And by the way, you said it before beautifully, Anne, in that wrap-up conversation, that we need those people whom we can trust and will not judge us. This is exactly that. It doesn't matter if it's one person, if it's a group, if it's an entire community, if it's our family, if it's a stranger, if it's a colleague, if it's our boss, if it's a mentor. As long as it's someone we can trust, someone who will not judge us, someone who will be there for us when we need them, someone who will have our back, right? This is what we need. This is building our support system. This is part of external resilience that we can cultivate and maintain. If we tie it back to work and what I said before about working with organizations, in organization, well-being, strategy for well-being, building this support system has to come along with this strategy. And again, I'll start with a story. So just a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting in a room. No, actually, I was standing. They were sitting. I was standing in a room. I had 40 managers sitting in the room with the VP Human Resources there. And we were talking strategic well-being, and we built this strategy. But before jumping into making the plans and everything, I asked them to do an exercise. I gave them 20 minutes. They were sitting around tables. And I asked them to share with each other around the table openly, to share their most pressing challenges and stressors at work. Now, what happened, I anticipated that it happens every time, but it's still, I'm amazed every time, all over again. What happened is that in the first 5 minutes, the room was quiet, but not, silence, just they would talk quietly, hesitant. Should we share everything with each other? I mean, I'm the manager, right? Should I put on that mask of, toughness? Should I stay that rock? After 5 minutes, you could hear more and more people speak up, and you could hear the volume, being raised up. In the 10 minutes mark, I approached every one of the tables and I gave them another question, more challenging. What is hindering you from handling those stressors, something around it? And you can hear the entire room buzzing. And I stopped them after 20 minutes. And I invited them. They were encouraged, just invited to whoever wants to step into the center of the room and share on a sticky note on the wall their main insights. And they were just walking there, sharing with the entire room. And they just built their support system. So that was the beginning. And they, of course, will need to maintain that, but it's not that difficult. And it's part of that vulnerability that is so much needed. Because if we now we're going to tie those two parts together. Building a strategy is terrific, but tomorrow morning, that plan will meet the reality. And if that, obstacles will arrive and difficulties will knock your door, I can assure you that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly normal. And the thing about creating a good strategy is to complement that with cultivating that resilience, to anticipate the difficulties and mentally prepare for them, to build your support systems, to build your inner strength and to practice that and practice difficult conversations and difficult situations. But also, what kind of mechanisms you can set up in advance to support your plan. And again, I'm not talking just about your organization or your team, or not just about your personal life. I'm talking about every applicable situation. As we said, well-being is everywhere, and it's relevant to each and every one of us in each situation. So planning is wonderful. What about supporting this plan with the mechanisms, with anticipating the obstacles and prepare for them, with building those support systems, with basically coming and say, I'm going to be consistent. Here's that word again, right? I'm going to be consistent with that, even when it's rough, even when I'm swimming in rough waters, because this is life, right? Complexity, we embrace complexity. And I want to wrap up with the notion that, we talked about leaders and business leaders, but I see every one of us, I can't see you now, I know you're hearing me, but I see every one of us as leaders, not because it's a buzzword or a cliche, because we just basically all lead something. We lead projects, we lead our routines, we lead our lives, we lead our family or our circle of friends, even if we, switch that role. We lead something in our lives. It doesn't matter the size of the system or operation. We lead ourselves. That's a complex enough situation, right? And when we lead that, we always have a choice, even when it seems we don't have a choice, even when it seems what someone else dictates our schedule, we always have a choice how to navigate within that schedule, how to balance that with activities that meets our needs. I'm not talking about work-life balance. I'm talking about work-life harmony. I'm talking about balance that with activities that actually serve us and meet our needs. How do we make that choice of being authentic, of being true to ourselves? That's a choice, right? How do we maintain the choice of speak up for what we care for? How do we maintain the choice of being in alignment with our values? How do we maintain the choice of growing and learning even when we feel stuck, and reach out and everything that we have covered? Because if there's one thing that is common to all of us, is this inner ability to choose, to navigate our life or work routines the way we believe is true to us, without compromising neither on our emotional nor our physical well-being. And to be more empathic to ourselves and to treat our well-being with respect, to be consistent, as we said, because well-being is a muscle. And the more we train it, the more we practice that, the stronger it becomes. This is what I have for you today. You're muted.
I'm muted. Thank you so much. This is so wonderful. I mean, you're bringing up so many important points, and I really loved this idea of understanding your internal resources and the external resources, and having helped people with serious mental conditions who will often feel hopeless, like they don't have a choice. It's so amazing when you can tap into both one of those internal or external to have them just open up to the tiniest bit of hope. And someone who is experiencing a lot of burnout, it's like just that tiniest bit of hope so they can have that. I really loved too how you shared the story about how at first in the room, people were quiet. And then it started to open up. I was recently giving a talk, and on some of the breakouts, it was that kind of quiet thing. But then I asked them to talk about what they complain about. And the room was so noisy. Like everyone was just, they didn't have any problem talking about what they complain about.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is that many of us were raised on that premise that, you know, we need to toughen up, right? And as leaders, we can't share, but this is so untrue to our being, but also to our leadership. And I remember one time when I dared to share with my team, someone said, oh, finally, I mean, they said, oh, finally, we see some of the real you. That was a big aha moment for me, right? Because this is so much more relatable when leaders can share what they are struggling with. Yeah, I mean, it requires the right setting and support, but still, you know, we can explore into that. Where is the right place and support system so we can share our challenges with them?
And you also brought up that if you don't get the help you need, you can have a heart incident, or you can have a panic attack and end up in the ER. You can, I mean, my current book right now is The Pressure-Free CEO. And I start out the book with my introduction sharing some of the very top leaders we've lost across the globe in their 40s, 50s, 60s, people who have access to the best healthcare, alternative, complementary, or traditional in the world, and we lose them to chronic disease because of the release of stress hormones. And so it's really sad to for people to not have the ability to get the help they need, especially the high achiever who will secretly hide it from their families, from their friends. They'll even avoid getting checked out if they fear that they're going to be asked to slow down or take time off. And that's one of the secrets of what I do with people, is that they actually don't need to do that. They can take time off and now enjoy it instead of having to spend all that time trying to recover, because you, like you first said, we just get thrown right back into the work environment.
Right.
If we don't change that, it's not going to change.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to change the perspective that over business is a badge of honor. Right. We know it's not, but see, we so habitual about that. So it requires so much effort to actually change the paradigm.
Yeah. Does anybody else have a question for Davida before we move to our next speaker? Feel free to come right out on camera, unmute yourself. We've got Catherine is here. She's our next speaker. We've got Jenny Lynn, Tina, Leela. Feel free to come out. We don't need to hide here. This is a pretty open forum, as most of you know who've worked with me before. Leela says, great wisdom here. Wonderful. And Davida, you're starting something new that I know that I reached out to you about, but you have like a real global thought for what you're putting together these days, don't you?
Yeah, first of all, well, something good came out of COVID. We realized the world is a tiny little village, and we can work together, we can work collaboratively. And I want to create this meeting point, this connection point between organizational needs and people who can provide those needs and give their expertise into organizations. And that is a global operation. And I'm so glad you are part of that. I'm excited about this collaboration. And we have already wonderful team of experts, just, you know, waiting to step into organizations and really support whatever they need in terms of culture shift and practices and strategy and well-being and diversity and inclusion, and basically all those needs that employees want to develop in themselves, and organizations could support them with that. So this is what we're doing these days. Absolutely. Wonderful.
So I have put her link down here to her newsletter, and you can connect into Davida that way. And of course, I think I brought everyone, all the speakers on here today, I met through LinkedIn. So feel free to connect to people through LinkedIn as well if you want to learn more about what they're up to in the world, and just follow them and see what they're up to. LinkedIn to me is a really great connector, because you can also click and see people's background. You can see what they've done. You can learn about them in a one snapshot kind of way. So a little plug for LinkedIn, but that's how I actually find my speakers, is I go there first.
Absolutely.
And that's how I found you. So, and oh, wonderful. Davida just dropped in the chat the global initiative for anyone who is interested. And I'll make sure that that link is also in the recording. If you're watching the recording, take a look at your sheet. The links are all there for you. Well, thank you so much, Davida. It's great to meet you and have you here today, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. Same to you.
And I see our next speaker is here, so we're going to dive in. I met Catherine Roy through LinkedIn, and then I actually hired her to be a coach of mine. She is really just a fantastic, incredible powerhouse of a woman who brings so much to her leadership. And Catherine, thanks so much for coming on today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I'm always delighted to spend time with you. Thank you.
I love it. So share a little bit about yourself, and then go ahead and dive. Last time we were together, you came at a conference of mine last time, and you actually did an experiment on me, which was pretty funny. So I have no idea what you have in store for us today.
Maybe we can do something.
You can just dive in and share. And I'm going to drop the link. What link did you want people to go to? I should ask you that.
My website, for example, and
okay.
If they would like
Got
to,
it.
I will share the calendar link.
I got it right here. So I'll drop it in and go for it, Catherine.
Thanks so much. Actually, I am a business and personal growth coach. I specialize in helping people to use LinkedIn. I'm actually known as a LinkedIn Wonder Woman lately, and it's a magical place, truly. But after gaining so much success and awards, I actually wanted to share my story, because not always things were like that. Ellen knows my story. I was born in ex-Yugoslavia. I survived the civil state.
Oops, we lost you there for a moment. It's a little strange.
Wait.
I can hear you now.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Then we will remove this.
Beautiful.
So yes, I spent 78 days in the shelter, hiding from bombs. Like what is going on in the world now, it's really, really touching my heart, and it's really difficult for me to watch all of that. Afterwards, I actually faced with Coxsackie virus, which has very high deadly rate. In 2008, I was diagnosed with Coxsackie virus, and they told me I will live just a year and a half. As you can see, nope, that's not my story. I changed my story, and here I am now. What actually happened is that I wrote a book and I published it in America, and after it became a bestseller, I gained a lot of traction on social media. But since I was a programmer, it was very simple for me to utilize social media for what I love to do. So I managed to grow my own business, to leave a corporation, and now I run my own business. But being a businesswoman is one side of me. What is more important is actually that emotional side, which is very needed if we're doing anything in public. And I want to share one vulnerable story. Lately, last weekend, actually, I had a public speaking engagement, which was very uncomfortable. And I have to say that I had you on my mind all the time. Yes, I was on NLP certification, and that just wasn't my room. I didn't felt like I belonged there. And although I did a lot of public speaking and a lot of public appearances, it just didn't felt like I was supposed to be there. And then all of a sudden I realized, if there is just one person who needs to hear my message, then I have to step up on that stage.
Mhm.
And I was sure there has to be at least one person. How it ended is that I made 100 people cry, which is good because I wanted to touch them emotionally. And then I rolled them back to the feeling blissful and successful after my 3 minutes. It was just 3 minutes. It was very like under pressure. I know you have a program called Pressure Free. This was completely under pressure, and it was very, very new for me, and it was live. But I managed to step up, to get in my own role, to have my people on my mind. As I mentioned, you were one of them. And I delivered that with grace and ease. And it was amazing. I haven't expected people who are not my audience will actually react that way. And I was just standing there in shock. But what I actually did is focusing in the right moment. We all have both emotional and intellectual sides. Those are the sides that I focus on. We have much more, but these two sides are very important. And in this moment, I felt like my emotional side wasn't actually in a balance, although my intellectual was. And I felt like I'm not quite myself. After isolation and 2.5 years of online work, I was all of a sudden live on stage, right? And it was just strange. But I managed to focus and to be in the present moment and practically to hear my own voice as a channel for people to really get the message of love, because the topic was about self-love and self-growth. And I was so happy when I did that. Like, that was such a little thing, not at all important for my career, not at all important for my business, but still I felt like I have to put more effort in that.
Oh, you're bringing up something really great, I think, and that is, you hear the phrase, I think it was Harbecker, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yes.
But that you gave that attention, like you said, it wasn't going to impact your business, it wasn't going to impact what you're trying to create in the world, but I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I was just like, let's do this and let's get the best out of it, and let's touch at least one soul. And it ended up that I touched 100 souls, and it was completely amazing. So yeah, that was a magnificent experience. What I have realized through my 7 years of my own business growth is that it is very important that we realize that working under pressure is not getting us anywhere. And people usually put themselves in some kind of a box or situation or deadline or something like that. And then they just struggle to manage what someone asked them for in corporation, or if they're business owners, they have to get it done until it just doesn't matter. And when we step up with grace and ease, for example, I just saw in the video, and this man was talking about a goal. Let's say I want to earn $1 million until the end of the year. I'm already putting a pressure on myself. But if I want to achieve that whenever fast as is possible, then we can actually work much easier and really maybe achieve that. So I would like to switch a little bit from forcing ourselves to achieve a goal to focusing on the ending result and the feeling of that goal, while we actually work on our limiting beliefs and change them from something that limits us from that perspective to something that gives us inspiration or encouragement to move forward. So it's actually more about emotions, again, than about any other side of us. Even maybe our spiritual side might get more important than intellectual, because our mind is an organ for survival and it is set to protect us. and it produces fear, it produces procrastination, or we want to do something perfectly. But if we want to do something perfectly, it's not exactly that I want that to be perfect, but maybe I'm afraid of the reaction of others, so I'm putting more effort to make it perfect. So the main question is not why I am a perfectionist, but what I'm afraid of. So I'm putting so much effort instead of producing more value than making it perfect. And we go in the circle if we allow our mind to rule. And you know, I'm a Mensa member, and I was trapped in my mind like 30 years, and that didn't help me. What did help me is realizing that I need to release my thoughts, that I need to relax, and I need to let it go and allow my heart and my spiritual being to grow, so I will get better results. That was a complete new shift for me. It was unbelievably that can even be possible, because I was a scientific person. What works for me is what's proven. So it was very tricky for me to understand that. But once I managed to calm my mind, to use techniques like meditation or mindfulness or any other, even hypnosis, and to calm that monkey voice in my mind, and actually allow myself to create and put my creativity in front of everything else, things started to grow and to unfold. So the funny thing is, people live in systems. They believe that going to work, working 9 to 5, paying bills and doing all that circle is what a life is meant for, or they're taught like that. But I believe that those systems are created so people think they don't have another option. So they mostly use their minds, put a lot of pressure on them, and then they come home and they are tired. They can't focus on their families. They can't give the best of themselves, and they're unsatisfied. And here comes anxiety, depression, and everything that goes with it. So we need to relax and to understand that we don't need to live in a system. The world can be fluid, and we actually can elevate much faster and better if we allow ourselves to be who we really are, to be our authentic self, and to learn from an expert like you, for example, how to use our powers to really step up and be who we truly are. And I believe that everything is in us. So my outer growth after everything that I have lived through came from within. It didn't came from outer sources. It came from within. Because when I'm in alignment with myself, then the opportunities and the right people and everything else comes my way. Once I'm not in alignment with myself, like I wasn't when I was about to step on that stage, everything falls apart. Then wrong, under quotation mark, wrong opportunities or people come my way, and that doesn't help my growth. So practically, to conclude this, if we want to have the high level achievement in life, we need to work on both sides, emotional and intellectual. And both sides need to be on high level and in balance, because otherwise, if one is leading another, we are not in balance, whichever side that is. So if it is emotional, usually we will react instead of being responsive, and we can, put ourselves in a position that's not quite comfortable. And on the other side, if we allow just our mind to lead us and put down our emotions, we will end up in frustration. So what I believe strongly is that one needs to work on both sides, emotional and intellectual, to do everything possible to feel good, because brilliant knowledge, if we don't feel good, will not be presented well. But average knowledge, if we feel good, will be presented well, and it will end up like a better source than the excellent knowledge. That's usually what geniuses have a problem with in communication. And that's why engineers, for example, who are usually like genial people, they just can't find the right words because their emotional side is not developed as their intellectual side. So if we look at these things, it's kind of a game. And if we learn the rules of a game, then we really can achieve everything we desire. There are no limits at all. We just need to learn how and to be the best version of ourselves.
I love how you say the best version of ourselves, because when I look back to before I created my method, by the way, when I created it, I didn't think I needed it. I thought I was a really consummate professional. I thought I was very calm, but there were all these signs that I wasn't. So I was in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to evolve this whole thing, what I came to understand was I didn't even know my real self. I really only knew myself under the influence of these stress hormones. That's what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had so many people say to me, thank you for helping me find my real self. Because when we're in the stress cycle, we can't even see it. And like you say, we're out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the out of balance you is not the real you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's not the real you. And
Exactly.
so you might be under, for example, I had a woman say to me, everyone at work says, oh, you're so hormonal. You're so hormonal. And probably behind their back, they're like, oh, she's so aggressive, or she's so this, she's so that. That's her under the influence. It's not her real true self. So we sometimes get labeled in our corporations. We get labeled by people.
Hey, Simone, how'd it go?
I'm going to mute you. There we go. So yeah, I'd love for you to just talk a little bit more about that. I think it's important.
Well, what happened to me on that stage, if we take that as an example, that wasn't me. I couldn't shine my life. I couldn't light. I couldn't be myself because I was under such high pressure. And why I was under such high pressure, the trainer of that NLP training, and training lasted 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
She is a very famous public person in Europe.
Okay.
And basically, I saw her as a kind of authority, although she saw me the same way. And once she realized who I am and what I'm doing, she saw me the same way. So, we never managed to establish a nice, relaxed connection. And I had anxiety in front of her, which I never had in my life. And she had anxiety in front of me. So not that I wasn't myself, but she wasn't herself. And now when I look back, it's fun. It's funny. I mean, why that really happened for me to learn a lesson, and a very important one. And that lesson is I wish and I need to be myself in any situation, under any circumstances. I wish to find my core, my balance, and to be the light, which I strongly believe I am. Never mind who is in audience, never mind who is listening to me, but my voice is something that I wish to use to help others who need to hear what I have to say. So I will be honest, it wasn't me. I found a way by stepping up on that stage in a role, like I was acting really, and it was a storytelling. So it was a nice story about, my life from childhood to who am I now. But that felt like I was acting. Now when I'm talking to you, this is me. Like this is 100% me. I can put my heart on the table now, and I feel blessed to be here. There, no. So there is a lot to learn, and I'm so grateful for that experience. Because when we face after 2.5 years with 100 people who are different than we are, who have different perspectives, who are not light workers, who don't have heart-oriented businesses, who are very, very, very different than what I'm used to, and people like you who are lovely and kind and generous, then wait a minute, I can't lose myself. I need to find that my balance again. I need to ground myself, right?
Right.
So I practically used all the techniques that I knew, from meditation to everything that I knew, to be my authentic self. And it ended up that it was good. So I made them believe, but I will be honest completely, that that is authentically me.
Right, right.
No, that was me looking like I'm very self-confident on that stage while I was hardly waiting just to get it done.
Right, right.
And, I'm sure you can understand me. I felt like, under such a high pressure, and when it was done, I've got a standing ovations. I never in my life saw something like that in front of me. Like 100 people stood up and they were applauding, and I was in shock, and they started running on the stage to hug me. And I was like, what
I saw your picture of that. Yeah.
what is happening? But now I'm honestly telling the truth, what was going behind the scenes, what was going inside of me.
Right.
And the reason why that happened, because all the way from the childhood, I have a fear of authority. And
Right.
that ended up to be the obstacle of this, but actually helped me realize what is triggering me and what I need to work on.
Yes.
Because my relationship with my dad was like that. And because of that, I developed that fear, which I didn't even know it exists. But this situation helped me. So yes, it's not simple to be our authentic self. That's the hardest thing that we can do. But if we manage to do that, then the whole world will open doors for us. Yeah. Because people feel when someone is who they really are, or they can really act good, like
right, right.
that we can. Yes.
And you're bringing up a great point that people will say, 90% of people have a fear of public speaking.
Yes.
It's actually, they have a fear of public speaking for certain people who come in the room.
Exactly, that happened.
Because you can speak to a group where you have no fear at all, but then you just put one person in, like this one person for you, and that changes you. That's the thing that triggers fight or flight in you. Yes. That happened to me on a stage in a recital. It's one of the reasons I actually started creating my mental toughness tools back in grad school to do what I do today, was that I had a complete panic attack. We didn't have those words back then. We just called it stage fright. I had never had stage fright. I've been performing since I was a tiny girl, never had stage fright. And it was when we walked down on stage I expected a small audience. It was a huge audience, standing room only, and all of the string faculty. So my professor and all the other string professors were there, even though this was a clarinetist recital. So I didn't expect that. And it was something about the room and seeing that just threw me into a straight panic attack. And my heart was beating out of my chest. I couldn't even see the music, and I had to lead it. It was a Mozart clarinet quintet. And last week I was driving and that piece came on public radio. And I'm like, I still have to be careful not to trigger just from hearing any portion of that quintet whatsoever.
That's exactly what this trainer, she's a public person. She's on TV all the time. And I'm like, change the channel.
The channel.
But you know what happened? Just a week or two before that, I had a public speaking engagement in Microsoft, and 15 minutes before I started, they changed the group. So instead of speaking to American and Canadian CEOs, they were like 75 of them. I ended up speaking to 200 people who were from Europe, Mid East, and Asia, completely culturally different. And I was talking about emotions, which is even more challenging because let's say Japanese and Italians, they're very different in emotional expressing, and I didn't have any kind of stage fright or anything, nothing, because that was my place and I felt secure. But this one person, this one person, and it changes everything. Exactly.
And in the workplace, people will say that too, I'll be doing fine all day, but then I'll see this one person walk down the hallway toward me, and that will cause them to trigger fight or flight. It's people, and in fact, sometimes it's the people that love us and care about us the most that cause us to trigger the most. And so yeah, it's rather interesting. Does anyone have some questions or thoughts for Catherine? Feel free to come out on camera, unmute yourself, or just drop it in the chat if you have a question. And I'll just keep admitting people here. Hopefully we won't get Zoom bombed. I got Zoom bombed in one of my conferences, which was pretty hilarious. Not very funny, actually. So Catherine really is the LinkedIn ninja. If you want to learn how to get more engagement on LinkedIn, I learned so much from her, and truly, you are one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. You have a way that that really makes a difference in people's lives, and I'm really super grateful to have you come on this conference and share. Anything else you want to impart on us? We've got a few more minutes here.
I just wish to share that I always feel very grateful and blessed to be here with you, and feelings are absolutely mutual. You're one of my favorite people in the world, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
So great. So I have put, let's see, I'm pretty sure I put your two, Catherine's two, and we have a couple people who just came in, so I'm going to copy and paste this again for you because I don't think you can see the chat up ahead. So I will drop her links in here for you. And if you're on the recording, you have your sheet with all of your links so that you can tap in and learn from all of our speakers and gather some more wisdom. Well, thanks so much. I see Gary is on here, so we can go right ahead and bring Gary right into the fold here. And Catherine, thank you so much. So our next speaker today is Gary Barnes, and Gary and I met through LinkedIn. But I have heard about you for a while from a couple of colleagues of mine, Gary. So I am really thrilled that you are coming into this space and sharing with us all today. So welcome, Gary.
Well, thank you so much. It's always an honor and a privilege. And, it's always interesting when people say, I've been seeing you, I've watched you, I've known about you. I'm of the generation that when you would go into the post office, there was always a board of the most wanted criminals in the country. And so I've always said, have you been to the post office lately? But thank you so much. It's really neat to be here.
I remember those posters. That's hilarious. Yeah.
You have to be a little bit older to know that. Not old.
Not old, but older. Sweet. I like him.
Let's see. I can hear someone. So whoever's on the iPhone, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Can't find you here. Oh, here you go. There we go. All right, dive in, Gary. Share with us.
Well, you and I were speaking a little bit yesterday. My background is my early background was psychology and theology. So I always say I argued with myself from a very early age and went into real estate for a number of years and then built one of the very first financial planning firms in the US, built it at the top 3% in production without knowing what I was doing. I just thought that was, everybody did this, and sold it about 17 years ago. And organically, people kept asking me, how did I build my businesses to a high level so quickly? And so I did the proverbial buy me a hamburger and I'll, let you know everything, and then kept building it. And finally I ran out of time. So now I have coaching clients throughout the US in 8 different countries around the world. I'm the kid next door. I think I mentioned that to you. I really wanted people to see me that if I can do it, they can do it, because there's really no secret in success outside of application. the timing and the results of what we receive is really part of that key. We're not real patient normally. And so, but I'm an author. I hate writing, and I'm credited now with 10 books. I have 2 new ones coming out this year. I speak. My wife says if I have an audience of 1, I'm happy. And as long as it's not her, she's already heard the stories and jokes or whatever. And it just, I love engaging with people because people are so interesting. And the thing that I get asked the most is, what is the secret to success? What are the things that will really give us the results that we're looking for in any industry? And this is, for me, a real key, because it's not just honed in on one thing. If you're a speaker, if you're a coach, if you're a realtor, if you're whatever, this is that broad-based understanding that I've come to for me, that if anybody is willing to truly apply 3 keys, that they will be successful. I just don't know what I call the gestation period is, the point where you plant a seed and get a crop.
Right.
And some people, it's like they have the Midas touch. They do one thing and they explode onto the scene and get all the results. And then for most of us, it takes a little bit longer. And the hardest thing that I see with people is that when they put the effort in and they don't stick around long enough to get the result, but somebody else does. And so one of the things I was thinking about is just sharing the 3 keys today.
That'd be great.
And please, like I said yesterday, I would love to have you interject and, more of the conversation, like what you were having with Catherine. Catherine,
Absolutely.
I loved what you said about fear, because it really comes into, and I came on late. I think it was about, having that anxiety when you present or whatever. Number one, when it comes to presenting, I do a little prayer before I do any of this. And it has really nothing, it's not about a spiritual prayer, but it's a positioning prayer, is that let me touch one. I am always given a stage, no matter if I'm on television, I've done big stages, small stages, but my prayer is I'm there for at least one person at some point. It might not even be today on the call. It may be on the replay. It may be what we're doing lives in cyberspace forever. Mm-hmm. At some point, there was a reason that I was given this opportunity, that you and I met. And, so it's not about ego. I am the subject, but I am not the message. So anyway, that helps with the anxiety. And by the way, I'm always, my stomach, the fear, the whatever, before, and I've given over 1,000 talks, and I still have that. And it just tells me that I'm ready. It's about the anxiety, but once I get on, everything goes away. But anyway, so the 3 keys. The first one is to be seen, SEEN. If you're the best kept secret, nobody knows you're there. I ask audiences, how many of you ever feel like that best kept secret? And I get all these hands, how many of you really believe that you have a product or a service that is truly needed? And the thing is that when we're born, and for everyone here that has ever had children or have seen a child, the thing that parents want first for those kids, those babies, is to walk and talk. And as soon as we do, we are told to shut up and sit down. We are put in boxes. We are told to get in line, don't have an opinion. And so we get into this regimen of, I don't have permission to be seen, and who am I to be seen? And it just, all these other things that come up. But when we really connect with the mission, the message that is going to serve others, it's no longer about ego. It's about that, honestly, there was an old TV show years ago with, and again, you have to be a little bit older to know who Walter Brennan was, but there was a show that he was on that was a Western, and they were gunslingers, they were gunfighters, and usually the cowboy would come in and into the saloon and say, I hear you're the fastest gun in the West. And Walter would turn to him and say, no brag, just fact. And so it's owning your own value. It's owning the permission that you give to yourself that you are able to share. And here's the hard part of it. You will have haters. The more that you're out there, the more you're going to be a target. There is something that is, I was just on a call with one of my clients, and I talk about the black crab analogy. And when you go out crabbing for the little black crabs, what happens is you never have to take a lid to the bucket, because as soon as you get enough of the crabs in there where they start climbing on each other, when one is about ready to leave the bucket, a crab inside the bucket will grab it and pull it back into the bucket. And so it is about permission. People have told me forever, you've left me. And I said, no, you have not chosen to come with me. And so when we really understand that our mission, our message is beyond who we are, and we're willing to be exposed. And by the way, one of the things around this is the imposter syndrome. And this is so normal, so natural. I don't care at what level, it is very real. But when we come back to it, what we normally see in this be seen area is we don't see our own value, because what we are really good at comes so easily to us. It's so natural to us. And so what I have really come to understand and put my arms around, what I see as ordinary, other people see as extraordinary. What I see as ordinary, other people see as extraordinary. And so that doesn't mean that we're never going to be growing and there's going to be additional abilities that we have. Hopefully we're all growing. It is that, when are you ready? And if you've been given that notion, that inspiration, you are already ready if you choose to be. And there is a Garyism. My Garyisms have been coined by clients and people that have heard me. That's not something I created, but it's launch and adjust. I love airplanes. I have flown a P-51 World War II fighter and all this other stuff, but I ask audiences, when is an airplane 100% on course? And the answer is on the ground. It's the only time it's on course. When it's in the air, there's adversity. There's things that you can't see that is happening. There's storms, there's obstacles that you end up, but it's the only time that that airplane is doing what it was designed to do. It was meeting its own destiny. And so the launch and adjust is, if we don't launch, if we don't showcase ourselves, then we don't know what it is to adjust in order to reach that avatar, that group of people that are waiting for each and every one of you, all of us, to impact their lives. And so to be seen, we can do it on video. One of the best places to be able to, well, I'm going to cover that next. The second key, and I'm talking about 1,000 miles an hour. So if you have anything, just just give me a.
I'm putting little notes in the chat too, Gary.
Oh,
so.
okay. The second key is to be safe, SAFE. And I don't know anyone else right now on the circuit that is teaching this. And what I mean by that is, when I connect with people, I have no agenda outside of wanting to know who they are. And so when we have met people and they have an agenda, we can feel it. They're looking for information to be able to connect for a reason. They're looking for those tidbits to get you to convert to whatever they want you to do. And when we do that, we are actually pushing people away. And so for me, being safe, one of the best ways it's connected to being seen is to be a speaker. And many people really get scared about speaking and whatever, but I look at speaking as just sharing. It's a conversation. And so like today, I have things, we're talking out of our core values, our core messaging, our core understanding. It doesn't mean that we have to have a verbatim speech out there. It's being human. People don't want thespians anymore. They want real. And so, and that's good for me because I don't know how to be a thespian. If I had to do that, it would not work. It's like, people say, do you have to be funny to be a speaker? And Mark Victor Hansen, who was one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup, said, only if you want to be paid. But I cannot tell a joke to save my life, but I can tell stories and I can give innuendos. And life is funny in and of itself, particularly when we tell stories on ourselves. So, but the thing is that when we are a speaker, we can showcase in a very safe place because whether it's like in this group, I don't know who's particularly, when a lot of you don't have your videos on, it's like, I don't know who's watching. I don't know. And you can hide in an audience. People can hide in a very safe place. You are there showcasing you. So you're in the vulnerable position, and they can determine whether or not you have relevance and you have a fit for who you are to them. But when we truly go in and truly wanting to know people's stories, people today are starved for being heard. And if you really communicate and ask the questions of who they are, they will tell you much of the time TMI, too much information. I have had people tell me about bodily functions and about relationships, and I'm just going TMI, 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 and I'm still listening. And I've also, on airplanes, if you don't want to be my new best friend, don't sit next to me on an airplane. And so what happens is that I will start with a question. I will know about their relationships. I'll know about their pets. I'll know about their struggles, whatever. They'll get up and they go, "You're such a great conversationalist." And they don't even know who I am, what I do, because they've never asked. And it's okay. That was not the purpose of the connection. In fact, one of the things, and the other place of being seen is, I really recommend this. And I know Jenny Lynn is here. Write a book. Every one of you have a story. Once you write a book, you become very, very safe and very approachable in media and whatever. I don't care what industry you're in, but I was on an airplane, and there's a story behind it, but since we don't have 3 hours together, I was autographing one of my books. The flight attendant looked down, and the book is called How a Beaver Saved My Life. And there's a picture of a beaver, a stuffed beaver on the cover with me. But she saw the beaver and she goes, "Oh, I just love animal stories." And then she saw my picture. She goes, "That's you." I go, and I always carry extra. I said, "Could I gift you a book?" She goes, "Oh, okay, whatever." I said, "What's your name?" So I autographed. She came through with the food, and I gave her the book, and she hugged it and said, "You don't realize, nobody's ever given me a book before." And I'm going, "It's a book." And so there's a whole story around that. But at the end of it, the flight attendants, it was a 3-hour flight. They disappeared for 2 hours. Never that way again. Or I never had that happen. And then as I was leaving the airplane, another steward said, "You're an amazing person." I go, "What are you talking about?" They said, "We've been in the back of the plane reading the book." And she came off the airplane, and I had to change flights. It was right there. She came off, ran up to me, put her arms around me. This is a flight attendant that does not know who the heck I am. And she goes, "Thank you. You don't know how much I needed to know, or how much I needed the message that you gave in your book." I still, to this day, don't remember her name. I have a picture, but I was able to connect with another human being in a relevant way, which leads to the third key, is to be relevant. And that's where, when I ask audiences, if you have a product or service that is needed, and I get almost, always every hand goes up. I go, that's only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is it also desired and wanted? And so if you have a need and you have a desire from your community for that end result, then you're in synchronicity. I take it from I ask health professionals, do Americans want to be healthy? And almost always they say yes. And I follow up with another question. If that's true, why is McDonald's the #1 restaurant in America? I go, what do Americans really want? They want fast, cheap, and taste good. I said, when do Americans want to be healthy? And the answer is when they are sick. And so they say, well, do I have to change what I do? And what I go, no, but we have to change the messaging. We have to change to the so that. Most of the time, if we say, well, you have a weight loss program, that is what I call a so what. A so that is the translation to the benefit of that so what. So you're going to lose weight, so what? Or so that. So the so what is losing weight so that I can have more energy, so that I can run a marathon, so that I can be an image in leader in my business, so that my kids will want to do things with me. So, I mean, we start doing the peeling down of the onion, and we get to the so that's to where the emotional so that allows us to do the so what. Does that make sense? And so when we're doing this, we're embracing the three keys in a way that we're describing it to a person that, and I'm kind of folding back on myself. The one thing that I find that sabotages anyone from receiving results is the resistance to change. We hate change. And here's the kind of the oxymoron of this too. We want predictability in our lives, but we also want spontaneity in our lives, the unpredictable. They're diametrically opposed. And so the thing is to become comfortable being uncomfortable. Doing something new is always doing something new. To the first time always is. And so there's always a vulnerability in utilizing these three keys, because we don't want, we have this resistance to being judged. We have the resistance to being wrong. You know, in school, I learned this when I was working with, or have worked with people in Canada. The education system up there is very similar to the US, but it does something that is in reverse. For those of us in the US, when you turn in a paper in school and you got the paper back, it was all marked up in what color? Red. And so we looked at all the things that are wrong, and we started focusing on what was wrong, not right. In Canada, you get your paper back and it's marked up in green. It's all of the items that are correct. So you have a positive reinforcement of what you did correctly, not a negative reinforcement of what you were shortcoming in whatever that report or test was. And so mentally, we now have a permission to take another step, to get better, to look at the things that, okay, I've got this down, now over here, I get to, if I choose to, I get to embrace something new, to be able to increase my knowledge, my effectiveness, whatever it may be. And so it's really that permission to be wrong, permission to be vulnerable. And when we do that, truly, and I found this so much of the time, we become what I call a people magnet. People won't know why they are drawn to you, but they just know that you're safe. They know that you are not there to control them. They know that you're not there to correct them. And it's just being another human being without an agenda. I had a client one time call me and he said, how do I get people to convert faster? And when I say, can I ask you a question? They always know there's something coming. I said, so let me ask you a question. Are you asking me how you can get people to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it out of their timing? And he was, oh man, what do I do? I go, put more people in the queue, talk to more people. It's about their timing, not ours. And in fact, the client that I was just with, her niece was a client of mine 8, 9 years ago. And I knew about her. She was part of a program with my client. And she had been telling me, I'm going to hire you as my coach. I'm going to hire you as my coach. For 7 years, she told me, I'm going to hire you as my coach. About 6 months ago, she emailed me and says, I'm ready now. And she goes, I wish I had pulled the trigger earlier. I go, no, you don't. You weren't ready. I had to be patient enough to stay in business, to stay in the flow, to stay supportive without an agenda to convert her. Because if I had, she would not be a client today.
Right.
And so it just having that broader spectrum of abundance, instead of, you know, having this myopic feeling that I've got to convert you because of my needs. No, I need to be there as a support because of yours.
And, you know, there's so many times, if you put yourself out there to be seen, you don't even know who's watching you. I've been doing Facebook Live since it came out. And I had a fellow who called me. I've known him 30 years. He had been watching my videos at night before he went to sleep because they calmed him down so he could sleep well for 5 months straight. And then he picked up the phone and said, I think I need to work with you. I had no idea he was even watching. I didn't even know he was my friend on Facebook. I just like, I didn't know. So we don't know. And that's why you do have to put yourself out there. And I also want to bring forward what you said about having a book. I wrote my first book in 2020 because I had clients of mine who were parents who said, we're going through it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book in 90 days. One of my mentors is Robert Allen. He had a little program. I just dived in with Robert. And Robert, I pulled this book together, not so much for the sales on Amazon, but I have that book and I have author copies here. I might have a maintenance person coming in and I'll say, hey, are you a dad? And I'll say, hey, I've got a book for you. And I give them one of my books. And I do that constantly. And it's because Robert taught me years ago, your book is your business card.
It is.
So I love how you just gave that to the airline attendant. It was beautiful.
And going off the book for a second is people think they have to write War and Peace. It isn't. My first book is 115, 120 pages. You want it thick enough to where you have a spine.
Right.
But within self-publishing, that book is, maybe a couple of dollars to, $2 to $3, landed. And so it's not like having a $15, $20 book that you have to really think about how many of these books I'm going to give away. One of my clients is Andrea Vall, or one of my former clients, Andrea Vall. She wrote, her first book was Facebook Marketing for Dummies. And so the thing that around that, she can buy that book from Amazon for $1 less than she can from her publisher. So it's not a book, it's a book on a different realm that gives her credibility to have more stages and more things along those lines. But the book that, when you write a book, you become, and this is a strange piece, you become safe to people inviting you to be on their stage. Somehow you wrote it, you published it, you sell it, and they think you have credibility. It's in print. There is something about being an author that has a celebrity all of its own that's above being a speaker, being a coach, being any of these things. I had one, I was on another flight. I fly a lot, so I have all these flying stories. But there was a woman next to me and her husband. And, they do the cordial, what do you do, whatever. And I said, I'm an international speaker, a business coach, and an author. And and then about 15 minutes later, she nudged me. She goes, you're an author? I go, yeah. She goes, I've never sat next to a real life author before. And so I had a book. This is one of those things. When you have a book, you want to travel with the books. Because I don't sell them. I just give them away. And she wanted to buy it. I said, no, I wrote it. The next day, I'm in Denver. She's in Colorado Springs, about 60 miles away. She had read the book. She goes, I need to come up and buy 10 books from you today. We're leaving on a trip. I have all these people I want to give it to. I go, I'll overnight it to you. She goes, no, I don't want to take a chance it won't get to me. And so there's just something about, again, it's not about me. There's something else, is that we remember stories, we forget facts. People will forget my name, but they'll remember my story. They'll remember it. So I have howabeaversavemylife.com. I have the notryguy.com. I have all these other things that I am known for, the little monikers, because those are attached to stories. And when that happens, I was invited because of that book to do my TEDx. I never applied. And they wanted me to do that story. And so a book opens doors like it's phenomenal, but I don't do it to have the doors opened. This goes back to the agenda. Yes. I go back to share the message, because that book is, in 1988, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was told that I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. I'm 30 plus years past that. And so, but that book is not an MS book. I turned it into an adversity book that is applicable to anyone's challenge that they are going through. So that is my most requested talk in corporations, all different. In fact, I've never spoken for the MS Society, ever. Because I never did the drugs. you've got to follow the money sometimes, but
Oh,
it's
right.
okay. My message is don't let your circumstances define you. I have never owned the illness. I've always said I was diagnosed with. We can deal that with money. We can deal that with relationships. We can deal that with any area of life. So that's why that book opens up the opportunities to address virtually any audience, because I
Oh,
made it applicable.
I really want to hit on this point again. You just said I was diagnosed. You don't say I have MS. You are
Correct.
diagnosed with MS. This is powerful right there. That is powerful.
When the identity becomes or the circumstance becomes the identity,
Mhm.
we are doomed to the end result. In fact, when I was diagnosed with, and here's the other side, I lost all feelings from the neck down. I lost the ability to walk. I lost the ability to write. All the while I said I was diagnosed with. I did not, and people say, well, you were really smart. I don't know where that came from. Some of my background helped me, but it was an instinct that I knew that if I said I had something, that I was destined and doomed to go there. Right. One of my assistants had her sister-in-law was diagnosed the same time I was. She went home, went to bed, accepted everything, and died within 6 months. And it was like, in different situations, cancer, lupus, anything.
Sure.
It manifests differently. So I don't know that she would have a different outcome. And I had no guarantee that I would be here just because of that. But actually, I created in my mind, there was a visualization, but I created my 100th birthday party. I'm skydiving. So, it's just like I went beyond the so what.
Right.
I wanted the so that. And so it has allowed me to embrace, and one of the things that I have said forever is that I would not wish my life onto anyone, but I would not change anything because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I did. So we don't have to, and by the way, if you don't have an adversity story, you still have a book. People need to know that you can survive and be good, having it great, but there's always life lessons along the way and giving permission for people. And this is that other thing, another thing. I keep going this weird way. So
it's fine.
People, I don't believe people need permission, but people believe they need permission because in school, again, we had to raise our hand to go to the bathroom, to speak, to whatever. It's ingrained in us. And so when we give people permission to engage, to step out of the box and to be able to, do the new things, and people, I've climbed 14,000-foot mountains, I've flown airplanes, I've done, they go, how does that happen? I go, well, I just do it. I write a check, I do whatever it is. And it's like, why not live life, not merely exist? And having a balance of, now this is a negative story out of my financial planning practice because I had built it to the top 3%, but I was working 7 days a week, 12, 13 hours a day. I thought that was, but I had built a lifestyle that I did not participate in. My family did. And so having balance, having permission to, yes, have a great career, but also to have a great life and to have a physical benefit of yourself as well as a spiritual, mental, having this life wheel that is in balance and not out of balance.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. So much here, Gary. This is just terrific. And I love how you said that you have the books to give them to people. And that is precious because it's an amazing gift. Like you say, it is being an author and taking the time to do that. And we all have something we can share. And I meet so many people who have all kinds of ideas for why they want to write something. And you can be told that you were a horrible writer. I had one professor who was like, I thought I was a great writer coming out of high school into college. And he told me I was a horrible writer. And that affected me. I let it affect me. And I want to bring forward too that idea of the diagnosis, because I work with young people as well as adults. And I had a 12-year-old boy who came to me for hockey. And in our second session, he said to me, "This helps with school, doesn't it, Mrs. Ingalls?" And I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. And he goes, well, I have ADHD and I'm a CD student. So he self-identified as being a CD student and he has ADHD. So the first thing I said was, well, you have ADHD. Oh, so you're brilliant. Nobody had ever said that before. So we opened that up. And then I said, he goes, but I just got an A on my history test this week. I've never gotten an A before.
Wow.
And I said, okay, so why do you think? He goes, well, I stayed pressure free, so I didn't have test anxiety. I go, you're brilliant. And you know all the things that you're learning and you listen. So it's just a question of not triggering fight or flight.
Right.
And he ended up, he was 12. At 18, I went to his open house. He invited me to his open house. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And he still carries my business card, probably still does to this day, in his pocket everywhere he goes with my little tools on the back. He still uses it all the time. And he was a straight A student, honors student with a baseball scholarship to college. Now, if he was still a CD student who identified as ADHD, I don't think that would be happening for him.
No.
He's brilliant. He has a really cool career right now with showing cattle. So
You know, there was a social experiment that would be deemed really bad today in today's society, but this was back, I believe, in the 60s. I think it was in the 60s. And what they did is they went into a school and they took a class and they divided the class up without the students knowing it. And half the class, they took a intelligence test.
okay.
And half the students were given numbers that were low and they were connected to their locker numbers. And then the other half were given numbers that were given to the other locker numbers that were higher. And the lower numbered students were getting C's and D's and whatever. It was their image because they were told that was their intelligence. And then halfway through the school year, they messed up all kinds of kids back in the day. But, you know, halfway through the school year, they came back from, you know, I think Christmas, and they said, golly, guys, we made a mistake. We're so sorry. We did the test backwards. All you guys were actually in the highest, and here's your numbers. And they took the other ones and their scores reversed by the end of the year. And so it is that you know, that those labels that we are given are so detrimental. Something I wanted to share as a tool for everyone, if you're thinking about writing a book and it's intimidating to you at all, is I never learned how to type. These are my typing fingers. And again, I still have very little feelings in my hands, whatever. I still deal with symptoms that I have overcome. But I use Dragon, professionally speaking, the voice actuated software. So literally I have spoken all of my books. And one of the things that people really want to do if they're going to write articles, blogs, anything, is to keep your voice in your writing. Yeah. And so sometimes when we write, we get into our heads, but when you speak it, now the thing is, I have to give it to an editor to make it readable, because if you were to, as you could tell, if somebody was just to transcribe what I've done today, yeah, it wouldn't work out real well. So it needs, but your voice stays in it. And people tell me all the time when they read my books, they go, it sounds just like you. I go, go figure. Cool. And so Dragon, professionally speaking, is something I use a lot. And it's so evolved that it's really, really good. And you can get it at Office Depot or go to Nuance is the company that does it. You can go to them. They have sales at different times, but it's a very good software.
Beautiful. Well, Gary, thank you so much. This was really, really beautiful. For those of you who are here, I put Gary's, actually, Jenny Lynn put your link in here, a good link, free gift from Gary.com. I'll drop it down in here again. And I'm just so blessed to know you and so happy that you were willing to come on here and share today. Thanks, Gary.
Well, you're very welcome. And anyone that wants to, connect, the free gift from Gary, but social media, if anybody has questions, I love being a resource. Beautiful. And so it just, and we really haven't had the time to really connect as much, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
Me too. Fantastic. Well, thank
for
you,
the
Gary.
invitation.
I'm so glad to have our next guest on. And she is a new friend of mine, Leilani Wells. Again, we met through LinkedIn. And it turns out that she's right here in Michigan now. So she's originally from California in Seattle, and we're going to actually see each other in person at some point. So I'm so glad to bring you here, Leilani. And so welcome.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I know it was amazing when you reached out to me. I said, wait a second, she's in Michigan. And I'm like you shared, I'm so new to Michigan. So to have the opportunity to make new friends, and especially friends that are business owners, it's just really exciting. So thanks for reaching out. And Gary, that was really, really awesome to listen to everything you shared. I'm like over here taking notes like crazy. I love the book being your business card. I love that you're giving away the books. That is just so huge, so huge. And I think you may have opened me up to finally starting to write my book. And this is a big thing because I did a book collaboration. So I am technically an author, but I wanted to always write my own book, and people have been prodding me for years, but there are a few things you shared that made an impact. So I appreciate you. Thank you. So hi, you guys. Thank you guys for having me here. My name is Leilani. I am a visibility coach, a marketing expert. I absolutely love and adore just really guiding people to live in their joy and attract their ideal clients in their businesses. And I feel that in business and in life, we get to be in alignment, and we get to, it's not one or the other, we get to live a fully expressed life and live the same way, both in our personal life and our business life, if we set it up just right. And we can really truly be fulfilled the closer that we get to that, right? I believe that there's this old way of being that we're all sort of, I don't even want to say slowly, it's getting faster and faster that we're all coming out of it, right? Where we all used to feel like we had to be very robotic, and hi Tina, good to see you, how to be very robotic and act a certain way and do a certain thing to be what's called professional. And what's really beautiful is now we get to really show up as ourselves, because there's this thing called social media that came about and just shifted the game for everybody and made it to where, okay, we don't have to audition to be famous. We can actually go online and make ourselves famous. And then people started that were just regular human beings going on and doing it. And then people started saying, wait a second, there's regular human beings out there. It's not a white picket fence life. There's all kinds of people. The TV was telling us a bunch of stuff that's not real. And I can be famous, or I can have my dream business, or I can do whatever. And now you see people coming out in whatever makes them happy and being visible, right? But how do we do that? So I'd love to share some things with you guys today. I have some notes if you want to have a pen and paper in front of you. I'm just going to talk about, I'm going to keep it to 4 topics. So if you want to write like a little section for visibility equals vulnerability, I'll start there. So what does that mean, right? What does visibility equaling vulnerability mean? So when we become the most visible, and Gary spoke quite a bit to the word vulnerable, which is really beautiful, because what it's doing and why we're becoming more visible when we are more vulnerable is it's creating an opportunity for connection. Everybody wants to connect. Everybody wants to connect. It's in us. It's our natural desire to want to feel connected. That's why so many of us have been struggling through this pandemic more than anything, is that lack of togetherness that we all crave, right? We want to be expressive. We want to express ourselves. And part of connecting is expressing ourselves. And I believe that we want to live a fully expressed life to be fulfilled. Those are some things that really are fulfilling for all across the board for all human beings. But how do we get there, right? How do we feel like we can be ourselves and put ourselves out there and do these things with people we don't know? What do we put out there, and knowing that it can be scrutinized? Well, so when we dive into the social media aspect about that, we can understand that there's different ways of being on different social media platforms that you may be comfortable with. Okay, so a lot of times people come to me and their heads are filled with what these gurus have shared with them about being everywhere all the time, which brings me to quality over quantity, if you want to write that down. Quality over quantity. So when we're focusing on quality over quantity, that's another aspect of being able to be vulnerable in our social media outlets. And when I talk about social media, it is the thing right now, but I'm also sharing when we talk about visibility, anything. It can be picking up the phone. It could be doing collaborations and partnerships. It could be sending out mailers, you know, if you're a realtor, it could be anything. So it's really about forming that connection and allowing people to see you. So how do you do that when everyone's telling you to show up everywhere? Well, let's focus on what works for us. And when we focus on what works for us, it could be, well, you know what, I feel comfortable putting up an Instagram story or a Facebook story because I don't have to make everything look perfect. Then nobody's going to judge me because I can just go ahead and put my cell phone up and be like, hey guys, I just want to talk to you today about what I've got going on. You know, this is the real life of what business ownership is. I'm sitting here, there's a green screen behind me. This is not my actual location. And I just wanted to show you guys what we're doing here and say hi. Okay, talk to you later. There's a link right above if you want to go ahead and check out what I got going on, something to that effect. Now that takes 2 seconds. You put that out there. And then that can actually get you clients. That can actually get you new friends. That can actually get you the traction that you desire. So that also speaks to vulnerability. So sometimes we think, oh, well, we have to go and we have to cry on camera and social media. Oh my God, you know, because there's someone out there that did some dramatic thing to create this impact online, right? And or there's someone who like Gary spoke to is like hilarious, and we think we have to be a dancing clown or we have to like be so funny. And what we tend to forget is that everyone is different, and there's only one you, right? So you're going to be amazing, you're going to be different, you're going to be seen as long as you just show up. And the best way to start doing that is choosing the environment. So write down the word environment. It is the environment that you choose. You don't have to be all over Instagram if you don't like Instagram. You don't have to be all over Pinterest if you don't like Pinterest. Choose one thing that you like or that you like the best, okay? Or that you hate the least, right? Because maybe you don't like it at all because you don't like typing, whatever, who knows, you know, maybe no matter how vulnerable you get, it's just not your jam. Well, once you scale, you can get a team to do that, but you're still going to have to show up. So you have your own voice. You're still going to have to give them some sort of content for them to work with. So, you know, just figure out to start off with, you know, what is the most comfortable, the most appealing place for you to show up and create your own world, your own environment. I'll give you another example. I have in my own environments on Facebook, I show up differently on my Facebook personal page than I do on my Facebook business page. I show up different in my Facebook stories. I know they disappear in 24 hours, so I may get a little crazy in there, you know, and I show up differently on my Instagram stories. People get to see all kinds of stuff in my Instagram stories that they don't on my Facebook stories. You know, I once in a while put out some TikToks. So I'm all over the place, but I'm there in an intentional way. So write down the word intentional. If you show up intentional to serve who you want to impact. So a lot of times the clients, they come to me and they think they want certain things. And the certain things they think they want is maybe more money, more clients, more followers. Those are the things that they think they want. And what they really are coming to me that they want is they really want more clarity, because that's the number one reason they're not showing up, because you can look up all of the information on how to do this or that on social media, on YouTube, and you can find out in a day what to do, you know, how to link up, how to do location tags, all that kind of stuff. It's all there for you. But you are unclear. You're unclear on your package, who you serve, what brings you joy. Write down the word joy. If you don't care about having joy or don't focus on bringing joy to your life and to your business, you aren't going to attract anybody. And if you do, it's not going to be someone who brings you joy. I love, love, love the people I work with because I'm typically friends with them. after, like either right from the start or after a little while, we actually become friends. And I can still coach them and all of that. But the thing is I'm attracting people that I really desire hanging out with. I attract people that implement. I literally put out there what I want, and that's what I get, right? And so that's because I became clear. And so people are coming to me looking for that clarity, and they'd be showing up more if they were like, oh, I'm going to get exactly what I want, because they knew what they wanted. Okay. They're also coming to me because they want more confidence, and they're not people that are insecure, so they don't realize they want more confidence, because it's not like, oh, I don't love myself type of confidence. It's no, most of that lack of confidence is coming from inconsistency and being unclear for so long is what it is. Okay, so then there's that vulnerability and connection piece. So I show up very, very expressive, and just very much like another thing I noticed, Gary, you said people just tell you all kinds of stuff. When you show up, you did share that you felt like people are, really needing to talk, but it's more, I believe, credited to who you are as a person. When people open up like that, they feel like they can, and that's the thing that happens when you do it first. You do something first that normal people don't do, because they're behind this wall hiding, and nobody wants to be behind that wall. We don't want to be it, because we're trapping ourselves more than we're trapping anyone else. There's things that have happened in our life, because kids aren't hiding behind this wall. There's things that happen throughout all our life where we decided to just stay here because we're going to get more customers, we're going to get more friends, people are going to like us, we're not going to upset anyone, whatever, if we stay behind this wall. So then here someone comes along and they're like, hey, I'm this and I'm me and I'm doing whatever the heck I want. I'm flying a plane, I'm walking my dog in the middle of the night, I'm doing whatever, and they're like, wait, you can actually be yourself. I want to be myself. And there's where you become visible. There's that vulnerability. And now you've opened the door for them to do that in return. So when you show up on social media or on blogs or on whatever in person like that, but you only do it once in a blue moon because you have a life. This is real life, right? That's the quality over quantity piece. That's the gap. See, I'm a single mother, and I have lived most of my single mother life being like a true blue, like if someone watches my son, I have to pay for it. So I worked a lot, didn't sleep very much for the beginning of his life and all of this. And I wound up really paying attention to what I did with my time because of that, because I wanted to sleep and I wanted to spend time with my son, and I wasn't getting either. The time I was spending with him was like I was snuggled up to him and we just sleep next to each other, and that was it. And I was like, this has to stop. I can't do this. So what did I do? I found social media. I said, I can go all in with a post or video. I can really see people for who they are, because I'm so busy my entire life making sure I'm fooling myself that I'm very aware of different traits of people and how they express themselves. I can learn and pick up things on about people very quickly. I care, I'm looking at all of those things, listening to all those things. And what happened was, when I was online, I was friending the right people and doing the right things because of that. And come to find out, most of these people were high-powered business people that had way more success than me. And they're like, how are you so visible? So that's how my business became successful, because it like bridged the gap. I helped them, they helped me, and we figured that out. And now I'm where I'm at today. So this is something that can really propel your business. And of course, you scale it and you do put yourself everywhere you can once you have it scaled out with a team. But at the end of the day, there's an aspect of yourself that needs to be and gets to be there when you have someone else fully with you and your brand in their hands, and you're not watching it, paying attention to it because you want no part of it. That's a dangerous space to be in. That is the right now, I've noticed the number one thing that people are spending. You see famous people, you see high up the echelon, like business folks, whoever that has a name, that has money, from people knowing them, and it's not just like investments building kind of money, then you will notice that they are spending their time, their own personal time, in their business and their marketing more than anything. It's a different place we're living in. There's probably spending more time on that than any other aspect in their business, no matter what kind of business they're in. Because that's just the way it is right now. Is who we are is what people care about. And you can have a strong opinion, a strong stance. You can go this way or that way on anything. You be whoever the heck you want to be, and it's going to be safe. Why? Because you're looking to attract who you want to attract. So that's another thing that used to be the thing. Oh, you can't tell people your political beliefs or your religion or you're this or you're that or whatever. There's somebody for everyone. And you decide who you want to attract, and you decide, well, if you want to lose clients there, then yeah, say what you want to say. If you don't, then don't say it here. Say, but you can work with who you want to work with now. And it's just a beautiful space to be in. So I want to talk to you guys about another bucket, or I'll call it a bucket, since we talked about visibility versus vulnerability, quality over quantity. Let's talk about social media, what it is, what it actually is in its purest form, so we can take the anxiety away from it. Because I feel like every time I say those words, people inside are like, and social media equals communication. Social media is just another form of communication. Okay. So once we understand and realize, it's communication, like, if we were really passionate and we really love what we're doing, are we going to say, I don't really want to talk about my business today. I don't really, want to communicate that to anyone. That would never happen. Maybe if you're like taking a day off, fine, but you're not, like, if you're on fire about what you do, if you really like built your baby from the ground up, like, I would imagine that you want to talk about it, and you probably are talking about it all over the freaking place, if that's the lane and if that's where you're at right now in your business, right? And so when we reframe it and understand it for being communication, well, now it's a matter of, well, how do we want to communicate on social media? And what a lot of people are losing sight of, and why the masses can be turned off when it comes to not just like posting whatever we want on there, is because we are not understanding that we make it our own environment. We decide our own environment on there. We can say, you know what, I don't feel like posting on Facebook, but I feel like doing a live. Let me just go say hi to everyone. Hey, and just show up on a video and then just go about my day, or we can say, I don't want to show up on Facebook. I don't like Facebook. It's not my culture of like where I like to be. I like the Snapchat culture, or the TikTok culture, and we decide what it is, but we're communicating. Okay. Because we are not focused before we have a massive team on being everywhere at all times. We're focused on showing up in quality ways. And so going back to what I was sharing about how little time I had, when I did post, it was very intentional. And what I found is that when people came to me, they were like, how are you doing what you do? You're everywhere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't post for 2 weeks. And this is how I found out my quality over quantity works for me, right? And for a lot of the people I work with that really do that work to get there in that intentional posting and sharing, is that people think you're everywhere when you're not, because you become so memorable from a post or a video you shared. You're so memorable, rather than you trying to be somewhere 5 times a day with some boring graphic that, I have my logo here and it says an inspirational quote that somebody said 10 times and I'm doing it over and over. So they're going to I'm serious about my business. Well, nobody's remembering that. They're remembering you. Oh, that's the person who posts stuff that I want to scroll past. That's how they remember you, and they snooze you. So I want you guys to understand that you definitely want to have quantity when the time is right. But until then, you will massively build your business to get there, to hire out that type of support when you focus on quality and intention. And for that, you really want to be clear on what the people that come to you and who you want coming to you really wants to know. What do they really want to know? See, a lot of people want to know from me how they can be fully expressed. So what did I post a couple months ago that was one of my most looked at videos was me fire spinning. And I just was like, oh, I found this old video of me spinning poi chains. And everyone was like, oh, you fire spin? And they're just, I'm like, yeah, like I love it, you know, and they're just like commenting all over the place, you know, and that's not a business post, but yet I'm gaining visibility in business because I posted myself fire spinning. Okay, because I'm understanding that was not for me. That's the intention of, look, you can do whatever you want. Just go and do it. And you can show other people and express yourself. And another reason why I feel like everyone wants to be fully expressed, and it is a part of our fulfillment, is that when you look at the schools and you look at things that are like, this is my personal view here, but if you take a look, a lot of the times that things are like frowned upon in life and oh, it's not supposed to be that way. It's kind of backwards. It's like, okay, wait, you're taking creative stuff out of schools, and that's the first thing they cut is like music and expression and all this stuff. But yet when you get out of school and you realize that school taught, it raised us all to, you know, be busy workers and follow a system, but yet the people who are really making profits are the creatives that they were trying to cut and stifle in school. And so if you are living as yourself and being fully expressed, that's where the real money is. And that's where the real impact is. And it's sort of like unwinding and like reverse figuring that out, you know? It's like, oh, so that's where I'm at with that one. Lastly, I will share CTAs, calls to action. I believe that you should have a call to action all the time, wherever you're at. I spent 20 years in a sales career. I didn't really talk about that, but I used to run call centers and door knocking crews. So a lot of times you'll catch me doing this, and then people will start nodding with me, and you'll catch me, oh, you would agree, right? You know, saying stuff like that, just like naturally inside me to be having sales conversations regularly. But what I mean by calls to action is you're getting your audience not to just buy stuff from you all the time. You are getting them ready to buy stuff from you and enroll with you. So when you do a call to action, it can be tag a friend that you know that does this, or let me know in the comments this, or it could be a sale. DM me if you want to get started, or it could be anything, but you are, the call to action is always about getting your audience to do something. And you're really telling them without telling them to do it, because you're not asking, but you're not telling, right? You're guiding them to actually do something so that when it comes time and for them to work with you, then they're ready, because it takes multiple exposures and multiple times of them being exposed to you to go ahead and make that decision to go ahead and work with you and pull the trigger. And that's another reason why social media and marketing and being out there and visible is so important. So I want to take a pause because I think I'm almost at my time. And then also CL, if you wanted to open it up for anything or share anything.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, if anybody has questions, you can drop them in the chat or just open your cameras and come out off mute. We would love for any interaction here with Leilani. You dropped a lot of nuggets, a lot of great things. We could talk all day about call to actions, and that's a great one too. But I guess I really think that how you, let's see, how you be intentional and real, that really hit me too, the importance of that. And that you get to choose your environment, and you get to figure out which one of those social media works best for you. Jenny Lynn says, amazing insights. Yeah, so that really struck me. You know, you get to do that. Like, I often just video myself out on my walks, just because I'm creative when I'm walking. Like, stuff is pouring out of me and it just feels good. And I take people on a walk with me.
Yeah, so I actually watched your last two videos all from beginning to end on LinkedIn. So I absolutely love the way that you show up on video, because I usually don't watch videos all the way.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So, I mean, I don't care if it's 1 minute, 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, I got the gist, scrolled and, move, because I'm dealing with content all day. So
Right.
kudos to you on the way you show up. I think that for you, being with, oh, you know what? It actually brings me to a point. Nature is really good for getting people to watch longer on videos. So that's another aspect of what you do, being in nature. People will watch it longer because a lot of us don't understand how much we're craving being grounded to the earth and being in earth. We're so, sorry, my nose is itching. We're so, what's the word? We're drowning in technology right now. We're drowning in technology. Like a lot of us are, as in our world that we're in, are being what's the word, informed about when we're on our laptops and doing our stuff online as coaches and business people, to when we take a break, go outside in our yards and walk barefoot. This is the conversation that's starting, and it actually is so helpful because it's just, we need to be grounded. And so when you're actually watching you on a video, and I heard all the birds chirping, and I like closed my eyes for a little bit. I mean, so keep doing that in nature as much in your walks. It's beautiful. It's very good for visibility.
Well, you're in Kalamazoo now. We used to live in Battle Creek, and we lived right on the north side. And I started my Facebook show called Taking Out the Trash, a metaphor for taking the trash out of your head. But I literally would gather all the trash that from my house to the end of the road to this field. And then I would show people what I found. And it was funny because people would see all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff, forks, like weird stuff. and here comes my son. He knows what kind of weird stuff would end up on our yard and down the street. But I had this one guy who had, see, now I assumed it was a man. It could be a woman. One of the 40-ounce Bud Light, the bright blue cans. Okay, almost every day, every other day at least, there would be one of those just in the grass at the end of the road. And one day when I came by, because I walk every single day, there were two of them. And I got the biggest smile on my face, and I did the show, but I'm like, they've got a friend. Or they drank two of these from the corner store to the field, which would be a heck of a lot of beer, but it was just funny. And I didn't know, going back to when I was talking with Gary, I didn't know who's watching. I don't know who's watching. And I taught violin for years at a college. I'm in the hall one day, and this student I don't know very well, she runs up to me, throws her arms around me, and she goes, I watch your show every morning and it helps me so much. And we both got tears in our eyes, and we were like, I had no idea that I was having this impact on somebody. And so the reels showing up, I never had makeup on. I always just like had a crazy hat or whatever I'm wearing. Like, it was just crazy. But that's how I started Facebook, was just doing something unusual and kind of weird and outside. So I love how you bring, grounding is so important. And
Yeah.
I used to ground all the time in my old house. I live on the 3rd floor now, and I need to ground more. So thank you for that tip. I need to remember to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share one last thing, and
Great.
you can stay on schedule with everything. Yeah. So I wanted to share with you guys that when we think about, and especially when people like me who talk about marketing and social media and online marketing world, it sort of is this idea that, oh, we don't care about in-person stuff, or we're like all of this. No, I am, you will see when you all get to know me and see me, you will see me flying everywhere. You'll see me going everywhere and attending events when we can and doing all these in-person stuff. So what I want you guys to understand is that it's all things. This is just the thing I talk about the most because people are like, oh, but the thing is that social media is usually the confirmation that I have. I get a lot of people that work with me, not from initially coming from social media. So they'll come to me from a referral, for instance, or meeting me somewhere, or me, doing something in person. And then I'll go, hey, follow me here. I never hand out business cards, you guys. They throw them in the trash. So what I do is I'm like, everyone has a cell phone. Why are we using business cards? So we appear a professional, you know? So what I do is I'm like, hey, you know, give me your phone, and I like, follow me, follow you, and DM me, DM you. And then now they're in my sphere, and I'm like, hey, meet every day after meeting in person, and they start working with me, you know? So that is them seeing, oh wow, she's not just cool like I saw her in person, but she's here, she's there. Wow, oh my gosh, you know? So that's the last thing I wanted to share about that. And then I also I brought a free gift. I'll put the link in the chat.
Put it in the chat for me. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, and you guys can check it out and see if it's anything that is beneficial for you.
Well, thank you so much, Leilani. It was great to have you on here and great to know you. I can't wait to meet in person.
Me
Belly
too.
to belly, you know, really
Right?
together. That'll be great. And so now we're ready for our next guest. And our next guest is my son, my eldest son. I have 3 sons, Hugh Ingalls. And Hugh has his own company. He and my middle son formed Ingalls Pictures about 6 years ago. He's the executive producer. And I'm actually the chair of the advisory committee for his company. His company invests in Pressure Free. We do so much together. I hire him to be my strategy coach. So we are an entrepreneurial family. And Hugh has really in the past few years just delved into becoming the best leader he can be, and is very involved in something called EOS. He's just really well read, really well educated. He has a business degree, and I wanted to bring him out here for a couple of reasons. One, I would love for him to share with our audience just a bit about, because he's one of the first people that ever learned the Pressure Free method when he was 18, and what that did for him. There were a couple of really key things, and then share with us some great value today. So welcome, Hugh.
Awesome. Thank you, Mama. All right, y'all. Well, first, it's I know it's around lunchtime. Let's shake it out a little bit. Just get in our good posture, put our pressure-free tools into action. So yeah, thank you. So the last time I spoke at a conference like this, I felt this deep kind of connection point, this shift in my thinking between really understanding that our career building and business building is really the ultimate conduit for building a great life and building a lifestyle that is optimal for us, our family, and our friends. And I thought about that for a second, because what I'm going to share with you today is what I call the 7 fundamentals that I've been taking from material from great thinkers and doers, including Vern Harnish, Jim Collins, Grant Cardone, Gino Wickman. We can put some links in the notes for where this material comes from. But going back to my mother's point is as far as pressure-free living, I would want putting those, kind of ideas into work. So living pressure-free has allowed me to be here today and present to you all. And so, yeah, being, I'm 30 years old. I've been in entrepreneurial environments since birth. And so it has been just an incredible journey where when Pressure Free really came into the fold, we were already kind of on this path, but it was this bumpy ride. And I say we, certainly our family, but specifically even the middle brother and I, who started the firm, and Pressure Free has really allowed us to just have the full belief that anything is possible, and that we have the confidence, the tools to, take the necessary action and have good judgment in our decision making in order to achieve our goals. So going back to, the idea of marrying, kind of personal life, some of these foundational tools for personal life and business or career building with wherever you kind of find yourself. And as opposed to, I guess you could say, hobbies in this traditional education system, is that the career and business provides the greatest opportunity. It presents us the biggest challenges mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So in building an amazing small business, we're now in the top 5% of all businesses worldwide for longevity and profitability, and helping build, Pressure Free, into where Pressure Free is today. goes back to these 7 fundamentals. So if you want to get started here, so I'm going to put in the chat here. If you are taking notes throughout the day today, whether it be on your Evernote, Apple Notes, or a good old fashioned pen and paper, I put the 7 things in the chat there. So we're going to go through. So the first is mindset, and this comes from Pressure Free and also a great mentor, or I consider him a mentor, Grant Cardone, and that the mindset that it's our duty, responsibility, and obligation to be successful. So if you're on this call, you've had opportunities in your life that, and challenges in your life that have led you here today. So, we really have a beautiful opportunity here to learn and grow, to relieve even the suffering in our own life and relieve the suffering in our friends, family, coworkers as well. So just thinking, the first thing comes down to mindset. So what is your current mindset? Is it happy, sad, motivated, inspired? Do you use a slogan that kind of gets you into the frame of mind to do your best work in a given day? Sometimes mindset can be, your environment can determine your mindset as well. So just kind of take a second, reflect on your mindsets. Maybe it's just your mindset today. How did you wake up today? What was your feeling when you woke up when the alarm went off? Was it a feeling that, oh, wow, today I got to do this and this, the kids are here, I got to, and all these responsibilities, this overwhelm, you're first to go to your phone and see the emails and all the fires going on in your life. Kind of reflect for a second on mindset and maybe jot a few things down about how your mind has worked, maybe even the last 24 hours. And I'll give you an example of kind of the mindset that has really helped specifically our video production company go to where it's at today. As we started to develop this mindset of being number one. And so even in our daily huddles, in which it's a 5 to 10 minute little Zoom call, we'll end it before we do this breakdown, and we'll just put up the number one, number one, number one, number one. And we've done that for probably the last 2.5 months. And what the results have been pretty incredible, where we had actually 2 anonymous kind of blogs rate us the number one production company in Grand Rapids, where we're located, number one wedding company in Grand Rapids. And then we took home 3 awards at the Michigan Music Video Awards. These are all things that kind of just happened when we started just kind of reflecting, okay, we want to be number one. And all the results of the actions that came from that mindset is, as the business owner, I'm thinking about, okay, how do I have the best team? So I'm thinking about new ways in order to take care of our team. Quick little, I even send them little video messages, or, little just 5-second messages, just encourage them, say, hey, love y'all, let's keep rocking. And that's all come from the mindset. So that is number one. So I'm going to go pretty quickly because I know I got about 20 minutes here. So number 2 is core values. So think about your core values as something that informs all of your decision making. It's how we conduct our life and our business. So, what kind of lens are you bringing? So your mindset and then your core values are going to be that next step down for every decision that you make in a given day. Does anyone have personal core values? I don't know, some people aren't on camera, I know, but raise your hand if you've written down a personal set of core values. Do we have any?
Oh, go ahead and share, Leilani.
Oh gosh. Let's see. So I don't know if they're personal. I wrote them down for business, but like they're very much in alignment with I guess it's almost one and the same, like joy. Joy is one of them. And then also team first is another. And so, I mean, of course, for personal, that would be like family first, I would say. Then, gosh, what was the other one? I wrote out 5. I'm very much lacking in sleep right now. So, normally these things would be like memorized. They are my core values, but the thing I'm focusing on the most right now is the joy and the team first. Those are the 2 main things.
Leilani, I have a business coach that, and kind of going along the line you're thinking of forgetting, because we started out with a long list of core values for our business that then trickled down into really establishing for myself my personal core values. but a business coach said you can only have 3 because that's the maximum amount you could possibly maybe live out within a given moment. So for Ingles Pictures, as an example, our 3 core values is love and respect all people, continuous improvement, and client and audience return on investment. And that's trickled down to just one personal core value I have is just love and respect all people in all situations. And that has just been this just guidepost, for everything we do, we hire, we fire both clients and talent around these. And it's just been this foundational element that allows us to make, as I said, just positive decisions. So there's a little exercise too. I won't go too far, but I'll give you an example if you're trying to figure out what your core values are. So there's a great book called The Alliance by Reid Hoffman. He's out of LinkedIn, and we've had each one of our team members go through this to establish their own kind of personal core values that we can really understand where they're at. So how it works is you pick 3 people, could be friends, family, could be someone famous. And then you write 3 things that you see in them. So for example, like if you picked like Martin Luther King Jr. and what you see in him is vision, courage, and compassion. Okay, those are 3 things that you look up to in this person or recognize in this person. And it could be a family member, but listing 3 people out and then 3 things for each person. So you have a total of 9. And then you rank those 1 through 9. And those top 3 more than likely will be your personal core values. So I can probably follow up an email just more about that exercise, but it's a great way, to just narrow those down. So a bit about core values. Next is purpose. So coming up with a purpose statement. So this goes to kind of the Mark Twain quote, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. So as you're kind of moving through life, this may change because I think we have different purposes at different times. I'll give you an example myself. The purpose statement I came up with, actually, I was with my mom and a coworker and his wife. We were out in Vegas and we just come off this amazing, motivational, inspiring conference. And we started to talk about, why we were there. And it kind of got down to these statements about why we exist. Like, what is our purpose? Because we had learned so much. It was like, what direction we go to? Well, let's get down to why we exist. So, and it just poured out of me that day. It was like, I exist to be an example of leadership, discipline, enthusiasm, and curiosity. Like, that's it. That's purpose. That's why I'm here. And then we have, a purpose statement for our video production company. We exist to create experiences worth sharing. Simple enough. Experiences at every stage of the process, and that's worth sharing with another family, friend, coworker. So just think about that for a second. Reflect on, what could be like a purpose statement. A little different than a mission statement. I think purpose statement just has a deeper meaning. Number 4 is mission. So this isn't necessarily a mission statement, but what mission are you on? This could be a 1 year, 3 year, 10 year, could be, some people call it a big, hairy, audacious goal or big, hairy ass goal, excuse my French. But so this is like your 10-year target. I'll give you 2 examples. Is one, for a production company, is to